Hey guys, what is up? This is Mr. A. Crizzy here, and welcome back to another movie review. In tonight's movie review, I'm going to be doing a Disney movie review. And so in tonight's Disney movie review, I'm going to be reviewing this Disney movie which came out in June of 2002. And of course, it's basically like one of those Disney movies where I never really watched that much growing up, all the way up until I just revisited it for the first time in years, back in earlier this year in the summer. And yeah, and of course you can already tell by, this Disney movie review is going to be on Lilo and Stitch, released in 2002. Lilo and Stitch tells a tale of a young girl's close encounter with the galaxy's most wanted extraterrestrial. And in this movie, we follow a little girl named Lilo, who is a lonely Hawaiian girl who adopts a small, ugly, like quote unquote dog, of course, which is this little guy right here, which is more like a blue koala extraterrestrial mixture, but yeah. And of course, he goes by the name of Experiment 626, and so Lilo names this creature Stitch. So Stitch would be the perfect pet for if he weren't in a reality a genetic experiment who has escaped from an alien planet and crash landed on Earth in Hawaii. And so together, Lilo and Stitch they both perform a bond to each other, and they become friends. And of course, it basically goes through her love, faith, and belief in Ohana, which is Ohana means family. Family means nobody gets left behind or forgotten. And Ohana is basically the Hawaiian concept of family. So, and for the remainder of the film, like Lilo helps unlock Stitch's heart and gives him the ability to care for someone else. Yeah. So yeah, I love this movie, and because earlier this year in the summer, I just revisited this movie on Disney Plus earlier this year. Since, like I said, it's one of those Disney movies where I never really watched all that much growing up, because mainly because I was more used to other Disney films like The Lion King, Aladdin, or Toy Story, or whatever you can think of. But as for this movie though, after revisiting this movie on Disney Plus, I could definitely see how this movie is definitely one of Disney's best modern films of the early 2000s. And I loved almost everything about this movie. I can definitely see how this is definitely one of Disney's most popular movies. And I've seen a few of my friends and family out there, mostly my friends. I've seen plenty of my friends who love this movie in person. And yeah, I've seen plenty of friends, including in real life, including social media, who adore Stitch a lot. And I actually got this Stitch plush from this year's Baltimore Comic-Con, and not long ago, I actually just bought this DVD off of eBay, or one of those online shopping websites. And yeah, for what it is, Lilo and Stitch is definitely an early 2000s classic, and it's got well-developed characters. Chris Sanders does a great job directing and working on this movie. And yeah, Chris Sanders is also the perfect voice for Stitch, because you certainly can't top Chris Sanders as the Stitch voice. Yeah. And besides Chris Sanders, I know the voice cast is great. Like Devay Chase, who plays Lilo, she's great. And one of my favorite characters from Lilo and Stitch is Cobra Bubbles. Ving Rhames does have that really cool voice for Cobra Bubbles. Cobra Bubbles is actually one of my favorite characters from this movie. And even the opening Disney logo for Lilo and Stitch it does feel kind of creepy when you think about it as a kid. But when you get older, it's actually a pretty cool variant, because it's actually like the Walt Disney Pictures logo appears on a black background, and when the arch forms, you get that little spaceship beeping, and then the logo gets alien abducted. Yeah, which I think is a pretty cool variant to open up this movie. And yeah, Alan Silvestri's music is really good, and yeah, even the soundtrack too is also really good. And of course, like even before revisiting this movie, the only part from this movie I remember the most is actually when Lilo and Nani were like arguing and fighting, and then of course then we get this line, "Go to your room. I'm already in my room." And then of course they scream, like, she screams through the pillow. Yeah, that's the part from this movie like I remember the most before revisiting it. And yeah, and of course, yeah, I am aware that because of course everyone knows that this movie got remade this year for Memorial Day weekend earlier this year in May. Yeah, because there was actually a live action remake to this movie, which ever since after seeing the Little Mermaid remake, I've been just completely done with live action remakes. I mean, I know I said that before, but this year I didn't really bother with live action remakes or anything related to that. Like I didn't bother with Mufasa, The Lion King. I didn't bother with Snow White since I heard that sucked. And as for the Lilo and Stitch remake, a lot of people complained about the changes that were made for the remake. They switched out they switched out Jumba and Peekly's like the disguises and turned them into like human disguises, and also like Nani's decision to surrender Lilo, and also they got rid of one character from the original that was completely absent in the remake, gone to. And also another major problem that people have with the remake is they made Jumbo the bad guy. But here in this movie, Jumbo's not really that much of a bad guy in this film, even though he and Peakley were just trying to get Stitch back. But that doesn't make Jumbo the bad guy here in the original, because in the remake they really did made him the bad guy, but not here in this original. And yeah, and of course this DVD THX, this movie is also THX certified. The DVD that I have right here, yep, it's THX certified. And of course the movie's rated PG, and the runtime's like 85 minutes. And of course the title to this movie doesn't even show up until 10 minutes into the movie. Yeah. It's got some pretty cool, it's got some good bonus features, deleted scenes, and a music video. And yeah, I can probably say this is probably one of the best Disney films to ever come out in the early 2000s, besides Monsters Inc. And I'm sure some of you guys know about that one minor change during this movie that like after 9/11. Besides Monsters Inc., which was one of those affected 9/11 releases that had to make a minor change for that Harryhausen scene. There was actually one scene in this movie, Lilo and Stitch, where they had to make a minor change because of 9/11, because originally there was actually a scene in this movie during the climax and final battle. There was actually a part where I think Stitch was actually originally going to hijack an airplane and fly through a bunch of city buildings, which that would have reminded moviegoers at the time who lost their loved ones, who died in those crashes and those tragedies, that they would have been disturbed and traumatized. So of course they had to make a change right there in that scene, and have Stitch drive, like, fly a spaceship through the Hawaiian mountains, which I think that was probably a smart move for Disney to make that change, just like how Pixar did with Monsters Inc. Because I know I know both studios, they didn't want to remind moviegoers at the time who lost their loved ones on 9/11. But yeah, regardless, I love this movie, and it's like every time when you go to stores like Five Below, Target, or Walmart, you're gonna see like a lot of Stitch merchandise, because I've been to plenty of shopping stores out in public plenty of times, and I've seen plenty of Stitch merchandise, because it's like Stitch is like everywhere. Because anything you put Stitch in, it's bound to be a huge hit, because the live action remake of Lilo and Stitch grossed over $1 billion, and I didn't care about skipping out on it. Yeah. So it's like, so far the Lilo and Stitch remake this year is actually the only Disney film this year that grossed over $1 billion. But that might change when Zootopia 2 comes out, but just give it some time. We'll have to wait and see how it turns out. And of course, yeah, this movie Lilo and Stitch also spawned a series of direct-to-video films and sequels, like Lilo and Stitch 2, Stitch Has a Glitch, which is the only time Devay Chase did not play Lilo. Instead, it was Dakota Fanning. The reason for that is because Devay Chase was too busy working on the Lilo and Stitch TV show, which I never watched. But as for the direct-to-video sequels, none of them which that they're seen as none of them didn't look like they were as good as the first one. But yeah, like I said, you can't top the original Lilo and Stitch here. Yeah. So, oh yeah, because like even Roger Ebert from the Chicago sometimes even calls this movie Lilo and Stitch as funny, sassy, and original. The reason for originals is because this movie at the time was actually one of the best original ideas that Disney has ever came up with, and it's like it's got a great voice cast and a good story, and even a lot of fans of this movie adore this movie, and it's like, you know, one of Disney's most best films to come out in the early 2000s, like 2002. It's probably like one of the best animated films to come out in 2002. I mean, do I prefer this movie or Treasure Planet? Well, Treasure Planet's very underrated, but you know, I still like both movies. But of course, there's also Powerpuff Girls movie and the original Ice Age. Yeah, because I feel like 2002, I bet was a pretty nostalgic year for animated films, mainly because the year Lilo and Stitch became a thing. And yeah. Yeah, because even after rewatching Lilo and Stitch, like I think this movie has really been starting to grow on me after watching it again for after many years. And I definitely agree with you guys. Lilo and Stitch is a classic. So overall, Lilo and Stitch is an awesome movie, and I'm gonna give Lilo and Stitch 4.5 out of 5 stars. It's awesome. And if you haven't seen this movie in years, then it's definitely worth a rewatch. Because I just rewatched this movie like when the remake grossed $1 billion. When I heard the news the remake grossed over $1 billion, it reached its $1 billion mark. I rewatched the original on Disney Plus, and yeah, I love this movie. 4.5 out of 5 stars. Awesome movie. And there you have it, guys. That's my review on Lilo and Stitch. And there you have it, guys. That's going to be it for this review. Hope you guys liked it. And with that being said, thanks for watching as always. And if you're not subscribed yet, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't yet. And also make sure to like this video as well. With that being said, until next time, this is Mr. A. Crizzy saying goodbye, everybody, and that's about it. And remember, guys, Ohana means family. Family means nobody gets left behind and forgotten. All right? Goodbye, everybody, and that's about it.